In lesson one of our PLC fiddle here, we are looking at a basic input and output, just like we had on the home page. This is what I was describing a little bit more in here. We're going to go ahead and make a third option here, and I'm going to show you how to create a new input or output. In this case, we're going to go under here where it says add. I'm going to type in the word fiddle, capital F, lowercase I D D L E. If it's not a capital F, it probably will not function. It'll still work in this case, but this program has a check button up here, and the check button won't actually give you any information until you do. So we're just going to type fiddle. We're going to leave this as Boolean for now. I'll go over more about Boolean in a little bit, and you're just going to press the add button. So here you can fiddle with the button. It's got an on-off switch, just like anything else. The big thing here you'll notice though is if we turn the input on, the output also turns on. If we turn the fiddle on, it makes no difference because it's not programmed into this logic at all. So just for the moment, we're just showing you how to add buttons. Over here, you can actually switch between the input, the output, and the fiddle. So there's a way to change your programming instantly once you have your toolbox of items selected over here. Your in your switch button, your switch box, I guess you could call it. At the top here, we've got the toolbox, which we'll get into in future lessons. So moving forward, we just need to press the check button. It's like, okay, great job, you are good to go. So we're going to move on to the next lesson, part 2 here. In this case, they've added input 1, input 2, and output. This is very similar to what we just did a second ago with the, instead of having a fiddle button, now we have input 1. When we turn on input 1, you can see the output turns on. Over here, it turns up as green. If we turn on input 2, it doesn't affect anything whatsoever. But if we turn output 1 on, you can see that the output only comes on when we have output 1 affected. Now, if we switch this button to output 2, or input 2, I'm sorry, input 1 no longer affects the output, but input 2 does. And so that is the basic function of how all of this works. We're going to go on to a little bit more advanced section here in just a second. Part 3 of this lesson gives you a pretty good example of how programmable logic controllers work. So this is the pattern for a crosswalk button if you approach a red light like you're going to school. So what you're looking at here is when this crosswalk button is pushed, it's going to turn, and the yellow timer is on either one of these. It's going to delay the yellow timer for a certain button, and the crosswalk button will be function on or off. The yellow timer here is going to turn on the yellow light once it's active. Once the yellow timer Q and the red timer are functioning, then the red light is going to power on within a certain delay timer, and it's going to stay on until needed for the crosswalk. And then the timer is going to start and stop the crosswalk, which is going to affect the crosswalk signal. You can see this is sort of a loop that goes around until this works, then continue, then go to this next section, and then the crosswalk signal will go back out again. The red light is normally closed. That's what this means here. And the yellow light's normally closed, which means when these two are closed, then the green light can come on. So the majority of the time, your green light is on. It's a lot to cover. Believe me, we'll go over it. So it's kind of fun to think about how all this really works. So what we've got here is we've got a green light on, but you're coming up to the crosswalk, and you're going to go push the crosswalk button here. That's this one here, crosswalk button. And when you do, let's watch what happens. So instantly, the traffic light turns yellow. On a timer, the traffic light turns red, and the crosswalk signal comes on. After a short while, the crosswalk signal goes out, the red light goes back to green, and it starts all over again. So a very short timer on this case. You can't cross the street that quickly, but if you needed to, that's the same basic function of how a traffic light works. So again, um, you walk over to the crosswalk, you press the button like you're going to school, you hit the button, the traffic light turns yellow for the cars to stop. The cars stop. You can now walk. After a bit, you have to stop walking, and the light turns green again, and the traffic starts moving. So this is the basic function of the logic behind a traffic light.